Alright, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, we'll say Kalayim Layel Bashim Yahushai. The ones, the elders, and apostles of GMS who do rule and teach well. Today we're beginning to Genesis, the first chapter. Genesis 1:1, the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. God in Hebrew is Elohim, which is the way you say it in the Paleo Hebrew. I believe, like modern Hebrew, they say Elohim or something like that. Something along those lines. I think it's a different way you'd probably say it in Yiddish. We don't really get into those different dialects of the Hebrew. They're not the 100% ancient version of Hebrew. So, it's not a pure language. It's not that pure tongue like it says in the scriptures. In the beginning, the powers, right? Because Elohim, Allah means power, because, God as an L-O-R-D. Yahweh is our power source. So that's why Allah means power. So the powers, right, or the gods, right? Because God is Yahweh is a god, but these are lesser gods under him. Start with Yahushai on down to those angels, right? God here represents Yahushua, which is the real name of Jesus in the Paleo Hebrew, and the angels. And here the list of precepts, right? The word was with God, right? Stuff like that. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, right? Without form and void, right? The earth was there, but the elements are not being combined together, because these elements, they form and become solid and stuff once they're combined and are put together, if that makes sense. The bonds are created. The electrons come together and then they form together, and then sometimes they can start to lose electrons, and that kind of starts a chain reaction. And I was reading one book, a chemistry book, because that's what I'm into. I went to school for that and whatever. And the book was kind of talking about how they postulate that the earth was created because of chain reactions. Like how the earth's crust was created. It was just started by one reaction that just chained up with others, and it just kept going and going and going and going until it all formed. So that very well could be how they did it. But either or, they created chemical bonds and binded them together, which is going to come later. The darkness upon the face of the deep, i.e., deep space. The Spirit of the Most High moved upon the face of the waters, right? Or the sky, right? Like you have here. 2 Peter 3:5. For this they were ignorant of, that by the word of the Most High the heavens were of old, in the earth standing out of the water and in the water, which is the firmament, sky, and groundwater. Because you have water underneath the earth. So the sky, all that stuff was around, but wasn't completely formed yet. And the Most High said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And the Most High saw the light, that was good. And the Most High, it's not the Most High, it's the angels, right? Whoops. And Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light, right? And Elohim saw the light, and that was good. And Elohim divided the light from the darkness. I usually say the Most High and the highways and byways when I'm explaining it to someone for the first time, because bringing out the angels is kind of something that a lot of people don't really understand. A lot of Christians don't even know that, but some do. I saw some pages online where they actually admit that the angels were the ones that from creation. It was just the Most High, that Yahweh, who gave that blueprint to Yahushai, and Yahushai did the rest. That makes me think of Proverbs, the 8th chapter. Wisdom was around since the beginning, and we know that Yahushai is wisdom, and so on and so forth, right? That should be very clear to you. And the Elohim saw the light, that it was good, and Elohim divided that light from the darkness, right? Pretty much gave the elements light, have some emit light during various times of the day. The earth has a glow. It's not just because of the ozone layer and stuff like that. It's the elements, and I believe also the sun too, because the sun gives light to the earth, and lights up certain parts of the earth. And other places don't get as much sun, and that's how you have seasons. And if you're closer to the equator, you pretty much just have sun all the time. But as you get up to those poles, you get less sun and stuff like that. This is all stuff you can go look up and Google. So here's something that I learned in school, a few years ago. ThoughtCo.com, how flame test colors are produced, identify metals and metalloids with colored flames. The flame test is an analytical chemistry method used to help identify metal ions. While it's a useful qualitative analysis test and a lot of fun to perform, it can be used to identify all metals because not all metal ions yield flame colors. You don't need to know like all the stuff about ions and whatever, but atoms and whatever. Just think of it like that. Also, some metal ions display colors that are similar to each other, making it hard to tell them apart. Nevertheless, the test is still useful for identifying numerous metals and metalloids. Right? So pretty much by using flames, over here, that the colors observed during the flame test result from the excitement of the electrons caused by the increased temperature. The electrons jump from their ground level state to a higher energy level. As they return to their ground state, they emit visible light. The color of their light is connected to the location of the electrons in the affinity the outer shell electrons have to the atomic nucleus. Right? And then the rest we honestly don't need to go into. Pretty much if you use flames, you can tell what type of metal it is. So that's your proof. I didn't make it up. That's what the scripture says, and it's facts. And the Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Right? Pursuing the 2 Peter 3:8, this one day was 1,000 years. Now, when I do this, you can just copy all that for yourself on your own King James version, your own King.James, right? That's why I sit there and I open it so you can see the breakdown. Right? And Elohim said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let divide the waters from the waters. Right? Which is what? The ozone layer. 2 Peter 3 and 5, we just read before. Right? Firmament is known today as the ozone layer. It divides the waters on Earth from the waters in space. So this is it. Being formed from its base elements, into concrete thing. Having something to divide the sky from deep space. So that life can be habitated. And Elohim made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. So ozone once again, from the waters that were above the firmament to the space, deep space out there. So this is actually being formed in its concrete state. So that life can, because they say there's no like oxygen. Like, you can't breathe in space. That's why they have to have space suits. So people can breathe. So if there was no ozone there, then we just wouldn't be able to breathe. Life wouldn't be able to take place on the earth. And Elohim called the firmament heaven, evening and the morning was the second day, right? 2,000th year. So now we're moving up to 3,000. And Elohim said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, let the dry land appear, and it was so, right? So we get the earth, it's like 70-80% water or something like that. And then you have land. And when the land was appeared, right, in verse 10, and Elohim called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called the seas, and Elohim saw that was good, right? So back then you had Pangea, right? The earth was one land back then, and it was broken up in the flood. If you look at a map, you could fit the land masses like a puzzle. Yes, so Pangea is real, man. The whole earth was actually, together at one point. I believe scientists postulate, they say that the earth, the way you got earth was that it was originally water, like all water, and then there was ice, and then the ice turned into the earth. They say something like that. I don't know how the angels did it, man. Listen, man, I don't have the fruit of the tree of life, man. I don't have that ultimate wisdom, man. I want it, but I don't have it yet, and that's what I'm fighting for. So I want that ultimate wisdom, but I don't want to drag on too long. I want to get to at least the 11th verse, and then I'm just gonna let this be that, and I'll continue on tomorrow. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, season itself upon the earth, and it was so. Right? So back then, right, we don't got to go into all this, but you can go read this for yourself. Pretty much back then, um, the earth, you know, all the fruits. Actually, I'm gonna read that. See here, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So yeah, the plants, they didn't have to. You didn't have to water plants back then. That happened with original sin, after Adam went off. Back then, there was a dew that came out of the earth. I don't know if it says it in this one or the other one, but we could just look up. Come on, dude. This is gonna be the last verse I'm gonna get into. Then I'm gonna close it off for today and come back tomorrow. So dew. Give me the dew. Come on. The dew of heaven from above. Let's see here. Maybe it's not dew. Maybe it's mist. Yeah, Genesis 2 and 6. But they went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. So yeah, it was a mist back then before, you know, the flood. I mean, the mist is still there. Like when you wake up, like I used to work at a clothing store during the summer, and like I would have to wake up at like 6 a.m. and when I had to like work out and whatever, when it was a gym day, you know, I'll wake up super early because I worked as, you know, standard. I think I did like a 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or something like that, or 8 to 5. But you know, I woke up super early just so I can get my lifts in, so you know, I can get stacked and whatever. And you know, whenever I would leave at like 5 a.m., sometimes 6 a.m., you know, I would look outside and I would look at the, you know, the garbage can, and I'll see that dew, that mist on the at the garbage, you know, and look at it on the ground and stuff, and it'll be kind of like foggy out, you know. So yeah, that stuff is all real, you know. It still happens in the earth to this day, you know. It was just that rain and stuff was you know, the first time that happened with the flood. You know, now we have rains, and you know, rains can lead to flooding, and so on and so forth, and disasters and so on and so forth. You know, seasons and days. Right. In the earth brought forth grass, and the herb yielding seed to his kind, the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in his kind. No. Verse 11. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. The Most High designed the plants and animals seed in themselves to keep producing. This solves the age-old conundrum, which came first, the chicken or the egg, the chicken with the egg inside. This verse also goes into proving that the sun is not the life force of the earth, as the grass, herbs, fruit trees were growing before the sun was made. Yeah, that's right. You know, just out of the dew that came out of the earth. This is going to be the last one. I'll read till verse 13. The earth brought forth grass, and the herb yielding seed of his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself of his kind. And Elohim saw that was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day, the 3,000th year. So 3,000 years. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this be that. You know, I'll come back, talk a little bit more tomorrow. As a little closing note, you know, try to envision this, like all the beautiful plants that you see nowadays. All these things, you know, came back from this, you know. And you gotta think about that too. Before the sun was made, yeah, it must have had a different way of performing photosynthesis. Maybe not. No. They didn't need the sun, but there was still light upon the earth, so yeah, they would still be able to perform, you know, photosynthesis with like light and all that stuff, and you know, they need like CO2 and stuff like that to create oxygen and stuff like that, and to create sugar for themselves so they can feed themselves and continue to grow. But yeah, as I was saying, all those plants, man, all those plants, you know, all the beautiful plants that you see nowadays, all the exotic plants like dragon fruits, you know, all that stuff came back then. All the beautiful stuff, all the stuff that, you know, us here in NYC can get, because we gotta enjoy the good old goy slop with everyone else, which I'm saying, you know, ironically, because we're not a goy, we're not a goyim, you know, we are the real people, you know. Hell, even they admit that, you know, you have you know, Jews, so-called Jews, which are darker skinned, that actually go back, you know. Some of them admit it. I've been around Jews that actually admit it, you know, which yeah, of course, You know, I have family that are like that. You know, but I'm not an Amalekite. You know, my seed line goes back to someone who looked like an Amalekite and followed, you know, their Judaism and whatever. But I don't go back to that stuff. You know, obviously I know I'm an Israelite and I come out here and I teach. But yeah, this is pretty much it. You know, I'll see if I can. I don't know. Maybe I'll try to get to like the 20th or the 23rd verse tomorrow. I'll see how far I can get, but I want to make this short, so